like this thing.
Oh, dang! Oh, man. And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and I am excited today to bring you two non-rebels. That's right, two non-rebels. Now you're probably thinking, how's he so excited? This is the fourth Han Solo in the game. Now these are the characters that are the most recent. That's why they're bringing them in, because this is from episode 7. So this is the Han Solo and the Chewbacca that is from the most current movie that they've had out. And obviously there's a time thing. They've got to bring them out before the next movie comes out. So it's just a timing thing. This is why I know a lot of people out there are going to be crazy upset, but for a lot of people, this is actually going to be exciting because these two characters are not rebels. That's right, they're actually scoundrels. And so you're going to get two new scoundrels in the game, and these two scoundrels have amazing synergy, and they're going to breathe major life into a scoundrel team. And there are already some really cool scoundrel teams out there that I've seen people run. The problem is Commander Luke has really made scoundrel teams a hard thing to run in arena, but that can change. As you saw, Chewbacca can literally one-hit wonder CLS, pretty amazing. So there's a ton of synergy. I want to go over really quick just the basics while you're checking stuff out in the background, and then we're going to just go in and let you watch some of this cool footage. It's pretty amazing. Keep in mind, everything you guys see here is going to be a developer build, so there's some funky wonky things. One, some of the numbers may be slightly off. Some of what you see may be enhanced or not as good. Maybe he's going to hit for more, maybe he's going to hit for less, but this is when they were balancing. They took some video of what they believe it to be like when it comes out. However, it is a developer build. It's why there's that weird wonky, it's a technical term, weird wonky 30-minute timer on the top. Just keep in mind this is a developer's build, okay? All right, so the first thing is they're both scoundrels, and so you've got Han and you've got Chewbacca. They're going to bring an amazing amount of debuffing to the table, and the debuffs they do are important. The debuffs they're going to bring are going to be debuffs such as ability block, which is excellent. That means it's going to limit your opponent to their basics instead of their specials. You're going to be able to stun. Both Han and Chewie have the ability to stun a primary target. That's important, especially if they happen to be countering to stun the opponents. They're going to be able to bring in dispelling to be able to dispel the target. Han Solo can do that, dispel the target that he's focused on. Pretty amazing. You're going to also have stagger, which is a pretty cool ability that's going to be brought in to stagger the opponent. There's going to be, if they're debuffed, 50% chance of that stagger, and if they're not, if they are debuffed, it'll be 100% chance. With stun, it's 100% chance provided you pass potency. Dispelling, it's of course 100% unless you don't pass that. And then ability block, the ability says that it's 80% chance. Of course, if you pass all of the potency checks 80% of the time, that's 4 out of 5. That means you're not always going to get ability blocks on everybody, kind of like the stuns with Emperor Palpatine. You're not going to get a stun on everyone every time with Emperor Palpatine. It's a similar type process. And then also daze, which is pretty amazing. Daze is one of the best debuffs in the game, and daze, it's an 80% chance as well. Same thing, you're going to get daze sometimes, you're not going to get it all of the time. Now Han Solo has basically 2 attacks. They both do physical damage. One's his basic, the other's a special he gets to use every 3 turns. Chewbacca has the same thing. He's got a basic that he gets to use every turn and a special every 3 turns. So they're pretty simplistic when it comes to abilities, but they're kind of complicated when it comes to their special uniques, like what makes them so amazing. So let's go ahead and start with their specials. Each of them have a special. Han Solo's is, can I try that? And Han Solo will use Chewbacca's crossbow, and it's an AoE damage. It's going to do 10 to 15k onto everybody across the way. It's a pretty amazing ability, and he has that 80% chance to ability block the entire opposing team. 80% chance. Now it's going to resolve on each individual. 80% chance on this one, 80% chance on this one. So you could get no ability blocks, you could get 5 ability blocks, you could get 3. You know, statistics of RNG are going to say you'll probably get 2 to 4 at any given time, but you could get 5 or you could get none. Also, he's going to stun the primary target. So when we're talking about how to modify these characters, you're obviously going to be applying a lot of debuffs with these two characters, so potency is going to be very, very important. As far as Chewie's special, it has a cooldown of 3 also, and it's called Furious Blow, and it's pretty cool. He runs over and straight up molly-whops the opponent, whap, which is pretty cool, and it can do a lot of damage. This is a targeted ability, but it also does an AoE as well. AoE standing for area of effect. Slightly different. Han's is a little bit different. Han Solo's special targets everyone for damage and then possibly ability blocks everyone, whereas Chewie's Furious Blow is going to target one character with that physical damage, but then target everybody with the ability to speed down for 2 turns on potentially everybody across the way. The primary target you hit is going to do a lot of damage. I've seen this do over like 51,000 damage. That's pretty insane. Also, it's going to dispel anything. So if it's a tank, it'll dispel the taunt or any other positive status effects that are not locked. And then as well, it's going to stun that primary target. So this special is going to stun just like Han Solo's special stuns. So on their specials, they've got stuns. Now we talked about Han Solo's special doing about 10 to 15k to everybody. That's amazing. Also Chewie's ability being able to do, you know, speed down on the whole opposing team and doing anywhere from 30 to 50k to one particular target. It will vary wildly based on where he's at with his stacking abilities, which we'll talk about in a second. But we also have their basics to talk about. So Han Solo has a basic called True Shot, and it's going to deal physical damage, and it's going to hit for about 15k, and he can hit up to twice, kind of like the other Han Solo in the game. Now, the precursor to him shooting a second time is it just says that he shoots 50% of the time a second time, and if they're debuffed, he'll get that guaranteed 100% second shot. So if they're not debuffed, he'll shoot once and 50% of the time get a second shot. And if they're debuffed, it's going to be 1 and then 2. And both shots are going to be about 15k. So this basic is going to do around 30,000. Also, this basic can apply stagger, which is very, very cool. It means the next time that opponent gets hit, they basically lose all their turn meter. It's kind of like tripping them, staggering them. You trip them, they lose all their turn meter gains. So that's pretty cool. They lose their turn. So kind of like an ability block in essence. So I really like stagger as a debuff. I think it's pretty cool. And he's going to apply this on his basic with, if they're debuffed from other things such as speed down or ability block or anything else, obviously this is going to be a guaranteed double hit. So he's going to hit for like 30k for most people. Now, Chewie's basic's pretty amazing as well. Chewie's basic is going to do around 30,000. Pretty awesome. But again, this is going to vary wildly based off of where he's at with all of his stacking unique abilities. But his explosive bolt is going to do physical damage. He can use it every single time, and it's going to 80% of the time daze the opponent. This is a basic, so you're getting stagger on Han's basic and daze on Chewie's basic, and on their specials they're doing speed down and ability block as AoEs to everybody. Pretty crazy. Now, I did mention they have a lot of stacking abilities. This is where it kind of gets convoluted. Pretty simple on basics and specials. They have a lot of debuffs. They do a lot of damage. Basically, these two characters are bringing a lot to the table when it comes to damage. We've already talked about a little bit about potency needs because they're both applying a lot of debuffs, but they also are both attackers. They're going to do a lot of damage, and so you're going to want critical chance and critical damage sets. Now, with that said, you shouldn't stress a ton on critical chance and critical damage because they're going to boost themselves up with both of those stats. The way that works is Han Solo has a unique where he gets plus 25% critical chance. This is just a work-in. He just automatically gets 25% additional critical chance and 50% health steal. Pretty crazy. 50% health steal is a lot. That's going to be a lot of health gain when he's smacking people. So pretty amazing there. Something Chewie gets is Chewie gets 12% offense boost every single time an opponent takes a turn. So if 5 characters across the way take a turn, boom, 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 boom. So if he's slow, and you don't have to necessarily mod him for speed, and I probably would think about a good strategy being not speed on him, which is nice. You don't have to worry about really fast teams. This is actually a counter meta team. This is designed to take out all of the super fast teams. Is you can leave him slow. The opponents are going to go, he's going to get 12 times 5 opponents. That's 60% offense. And it's continually stacks until he's taken 2 turns, which means that he'll continue to grow even after they take the next round of abilities from the opponent. So he's got to take 2 abilities before he loses the stacking, which means he can get up to 120% offense on a hit. This is why he goes from hitting for 25, 30,000 all the way up into like 51k. It's because of the stacking offense. Now, whenever Han Solo is hit, Chewie's going to get plus 25% critical chance. That's pretty cool. It's kind of an ad. Basically, Han Solo just gives himself it, but anytime Han's hit, Chewie will get the same 25% critical chance. Something that they both get is anytime either one of them are hit, they'll get 20% critical damage. So they're getting critical chance bonuses. They're getting critical damage bonuses every time one of them are hit. They're getting that critical damage bonus. And if one of them dies, if Chewie dies, Han Solo has all his abilities reset and he gets an extra turn. Vice versa, if Han dies, Chewie gets all of his abilities reset and he gets an extra turn. So there's a ton of synergy here with the 2 individuals. Also, Han Solo has a very cool counter chance. He gets plus 25% counter chance every time an enemy gains a buff. So if 5 enemies gain a buff, literally like a chase situation where they all gain health over time, he's got a guaranteed 100%. Get right off the bat, just right there, boom, he's got a 100% counter chance. Pretty amazing. And if you're debuffing the opponents, remember he's going to be shooting twice, 15k a pop. So this is really, really good. Now, he gains these stacking abilities. The next stacking abilities that I'm talking about, like this counter ability, he gains this ability until the next turn, and then it resets. The reason is it would be a moot point to have it past 100%. It doesn't matter. Plus, they wanted to have a reset built in, so that way these characters don't just continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. They've got to put some sort of checks and balances in there. So these next 3 abilities I'm talking about, like the one I just talked about with the counter chance whenever the enemy gains a buff, are all going to be reset at the end of his turn. So at the end of his turn, at the start of his next turn, it'll be reset. So at the start of his next turn, it's going to be back to 0 counter chance until the enemy gains buffs. Again, 25% boost each time they gain a buff. Anytime that Han Solo gets debuffed, so this is something they're going to try to be debuffing your opponents and damaging them and hurting them, right? I get it. It's going to be a negative thing for them to do that, to target Han Solo and debuff him, because he's going to get plus 50% defense for every debuff. They debuff him 3 times, he's going to get 150% defense. It just keeps going and going and going and going until the beginning of his next turn. And so he's going to have that stacking defense to kind of protect him until he gets the ability to go on the offense again. So 50% defense, pretty amazing, as well as his counter chance growing as well. And so we've talked about the opponents gaining buffs and Han Solo gaining debuffs, but what about if Han Solo gains buffs, right? We know if the opponents are gaining buffs, he's going to get the counter chance. We know if he gets debuffed, he gets tankier with his defense going up 50%. But what happens if he gains a buff? He gets, that's right, armor penetration plus 50. Armor penetration, that's significant. If you know, he gains 3 or 4 positive status effects, he is going, these status effects, these positive status effects that he gets, he's going to get armor penetration. And so if he gets 4 positive status effects added, he's going to get 200 armor penetration. What this basically means is when he hits, he's going to be hitting for the full force of what he's capable of hitting for. It won't be compressed by the opponent's armor. He's going to have that armor penetration to make sure that if he's supposed to be hitting for a max 15 grand, that he's truly hitting for that max 15 grand. This is going to be really important when you're going going against tanks, because as you know, those tanks are going to have real high armor percentages, and he's going to be able to just zip right through. So pretty crazy. You got a couple of scoundrels, which are amazing. You've got all of their abilities that are absolutely amazing. They're able to do mass AoE damage. They're able to do AoE ability blocks, AoE speed down. They're able to stun on their specials, both of them. They're able to, on their basics, inflict stagger and daze, which prevents countering, and stagger, which basically makes them skip a turn. Pretty amazing. They do tons of damage, and of course they have synergy, so if one dies, the other one's got an extra turn, and if one dies, the other one gets an extra turn. So they're pretty amazing, but they're not rebels. They're not going to go into the rebel pool that everybody's worried about. They're going to be scoundrels. I'm sure they're going to be mixed into other teams. They're going to be hybrid teams, of course. Initially, my initial impression of these guys was they're not going to be arena viable. When I read their kits, I didn't think the stacking was going to really make a difference in an arena battle, but unfortunately, from the footage I have seen, I think both of these guys are going to be crazy arena viable for sure. Now, what they were built for, people are like, why did they bring them into the game? Couple of reasons. The first is that it's a timing thing. Okay, they've got to get these two guys out while the movie's still fresh. That happened. Okay, this before the new movie comes out in December, and then it's kind of a moot point. The second thing that they brought him in for is territory battles. So you see, these two characters are designed specifically for territory battles. And they are both light side characters, and so you're going to be able to use them on any light side node within territory battles. Now, there are some exclusions, you know, to certain just rebels or to a Rogue One team or Phoenix, but there are a lot of nodes, over a third of them, that are just light side required, and these two guys are going to exceed abundantly in the territory battles. So what do you think about these two new scoundrels being added? I know there's a fourth Han Solo in the game. This is crazy talk, but I'm pretty excited about their kits. I'll be honest, these two guys look like they're going to be pretty amazing together. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.